All right. Well, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours. This happens to be the 80th MVP Office Hours, which is kind of crazy. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a consultant for Apereo and Salesforce MVP and head up the Office Hours. While I'm introducing the Office Hours MVPs, if you could just make sure your hands are raised in the web meeting so I don't miss you. All right, so yeah, if you haven't been to MVP Office Hours before, it's basically the Answers community but live. So you can ask questions on the phone, you can post them in the chat within the web, or you can just raise your hand and we'll get to you as we can. And yeah, we have developers and admins on, so ask whatever questions. Don't be shy. But because it is a kind of an open forum, we just ask that you mute your line when you're not speaking. That way we don't hear any background noise, and it's easy to hear everybody's questions and answers. So, all right. With that said, I just want to introduce the MVPs that are on the line. And so MVPs, if you could give me your name, where you work, and your area of expertise. So we'll start at the top here with Andy.
Howdy, Andy Betcher, work with Demand Chain Systems, which is a partner here in Minnesota, and I am development.
Dale.
Hey everybody, I'm Dale Ziegler. I am the admin and declarative developer for the Kansas City Southern Railway and have about 5 years experience under my belt.
And let's see, Denise. I see Denise in the web meeting, but maybe she's muted. All right. Well, we have Denise Carbone on, and she's just awesome. So just know that. All right. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And who wants to kick us off with the first question? Don't be shy. Let's see. Jen, you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do. My name is Jen. I work for a nonprofit called Awana. And I have a question about flows.
Woohoo.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have a flow that works, but at the end it updates an account record. There is one field that doesn't update. And so I tried to troubleshoot it by sending me an email of that field value as it goes through the whole flow. And right up to the very point before it updates, I'm getting a value for that field, for that variable. But when it updates the form, it actually deletes it instead of updating it.
It deletes the value or deletes the
Yes, it deletes the
record?
Value on the record.
Have you gone back through the workflow side of things? Are there any field updates that possibly nullify the value that maybe you're accidentally tripping up?
No. So I did what to troubleshoot, right? Before it does the update, I have it email me the value of that variable.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get the email, I see a value on that variable. But immediately after that email, it's an update. It's a record update. And I get blank. And the weird thing is I have the exact same flow. And this flow is called through a process builder. But I have the exact same flow, which is my test one, which is just a flow. And I do it from a screen input. And it works there.
Huh. And so if you're going through a screen input, then you're having to declare or you're having to state different variables. Absolutely sure that the right variables are connected, or maybe a misspelling of one that you're using another, like gone through I have
that variable email to me as my troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the actual variable email in my email body, and it's there. And immediately after that email is the record update, but when it gets to the record update, it's blank.
Is that email alert in the flow, or is it part of workflow
It's in flow.
of the account object? It is in the flow.
It's in flow.
Okay. Which I don't know that that's still conclusively. If the email alert's coming off of the flow, then it's dependent on stuff in the flow, not necessarily the record. That's really bizarre. How are you getting back to? So, what's your method of getting back to the record when the flow is done and you get back to the record? Are you using an RET URL statement, or are you manually navigating to that new record? Like if you're doing an RET URL statement,
what?
I'm wondering
I'm sorry, I don't know what.
So what you can do with your URLs, like how are you accessing the flow? Is this through a button or is it through a process folder?
It's when a change. It's from a process.
From a process. Oh, okay. Because if you put a flow behind a button, you can add a statement at the end of the URL that says, and when the flow is done, go return to this record ID or go return to this place. And so if you were doing a return URL statement back to the original record, I was wondering if maybe not everything refreshed, but it doesn't sound like you're doing that either.
On my screen input, it's the exact same thing except that I added, instead of letting it fire from a process, I'm actually doing it through a screen. That's how I'm initiating it, and it works. I don't lose the value of that variable.
Okay, so it's working when you access it from screen input, but not from a process.
Right.
Okay? So Process Builder can only fire off auto-launched flows. Auto-launched flows.
Well, yeah, it does. It works. Everything. So I'm updating 5 variables on my record update. 4 of the 5 updates, except for that one which deletes it. But in the email alert I get immediately before it updates the record, the value is there.
This is Andy. That's kind of a tough one, especially if 4 out of 5 are going. That screams me one of two things: either variable assignment or data format.
Andy, we can barely hear you.
It's probably more toward.
Say, Andy.
Better? Yeah.
It's still a little faint.
All right, let me see if I can crank up my gain here. Is that any better?
There we go. There you are.
There you
go. There we go. So, as you're describing it, 2 things come to me. It's either variable assignment, which is probably lesser of the chance, but it's probably how the variable's getting assigned in the headless flow versus the screen flow. I hate to say this on the call here. This is something that it might be easier for you to take a screenshot and throw it up into answers and maybe tweet back. And Jared, if you can share the hashtag that we look at for this thing, this might be something we need to take a peek at.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same with the headless and with the screen?
Yeah, it's the same.
Screen has that.
Yeah, because it works with the screen, I'm pretty sure that we're not looking at a how the flow is put together problem. What we're probably looking at is how that variable is pulled from where and assigned to the variable. It's data issue versus structure issue.
And another thing, also if you want to take up my offer, no worries if not. I have nothing going on after this call. We can set up a go-to meeting, go offline, and do screen share and actually walk our way through it if you want to do that as well.
I would love that, please. This is killing me. I don't know what's going on with it.
Oh, I bet. I have spent countless hours wondering where my needles in the haystack are on flow, so I feel your pain. I'm going to put, hey, Jared, if I post something in the message board, will everybody see it?
Yeah, it'll just come to me. I can relay it on.
Well, okay. I'm going to post my email. If you want to send me an email, and then I can send go-to meeting details back to you, and we can meet when this call is done.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I just posted it, Jared.
Yep, got it and relayed it on.
Thank you. Got it.
All right. Good stuff. All right, who else has a question? And by the way, we have two other MVPs who recently just joined the call, Brian Kwong and our friend Carlos.
Hello.
So
Hello.
More expertise on the call, so don't be shy. Ask them hard questions. Oh no, Sarah Force. Sarah. Just
She doesn't get to ask questions.
Oh man.
Wait a gosh darn second.
Man, we are. This call has been anointed. All right. What questions do we have out there? Dennis, do you have any questions?
Crickets. Maybe if I jump off the call, people will start asking questions. I don't know.
What about Lisa or Wendy? Do you guys have any questions? Anything we can help with?
Hi, this is Lisa. Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. My life this week has been integrations. Adobe, eSign, and we have a new app called Consumer Insight. And I'm trying to scope the projects or the integration and the time it's going to take to, and the effort that it's going to take to integrate both of those. But then I also have a question about ExactTarget. So I don't know if anyone has had the experience of integrating with any of those. I can.
Did you say that Adobe EcoSign?
Yeah, eSign is it's like DocuSign.
Yes, I did. It was
okay.
as joyful as eating a broken glass sandwich. But what's your question?
Well, I'm kind of curious how easy or difficult it was. Did you find that the support that documents that they provided, I've started to go through them and starting to, work in the sandbox, but just kind of overall, if you've used DocuSign or eSign, any comparison?
It actually, funny you mention, I'm actually doing something in DocuSign right now. So preference-wise, I prefer DocuSign.
Yeah.
I have worked with both. The last time that I worked with EcoSign, just to put it on fair for them, was a little bit over a year ago. Mm-hmm. And their documents are very thin and their support is very slow.
Yeah.
So now, once that you get a hold of someone, they're pretty knowledgeable, but the problem that I had was trying to get a hold of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I can tell you right away is everything you do in Sandbox, you're going to have to manually redo in prod.
Really?
Yes.
There's no way to deploy. There's no way to migrate or deploy it, huh?
They don't support it. You could hack your way with data loader. So the quote-unquote problem of why they don't support it is because all the configuration that you're doing is not on the app itself. You're not configuring anything on the app. You're creating records and their custom objects. So now the one that I had to do, it was literally one document on one use case. So when we learned that, the effort of just trying to download the data and then load it on the appropriate data loaded in the appropriate spots on production was not worth it for us to literally just go and retype everything on the screen. Now if you have a massive implementation,
it might be worth it, do it all there in Sandbox and test it there, and then data load your way into prod. But that was a kind of a big flaw that we saw with the Adobe product, that the configuration is on the on records, not on the actual app itself.
Okay. And we have a combination of documents that we'll need to, create templates within the eSign tool, and we also use Conga for Composer for couple of the others. So we've got a real combination, and it sounds like from what you're telling me, I have to be ready to deploy this in January, so it sounds like now is not too soon to start.
No, especially if you don't know it at all. It took me a couple of weeks to actually just stumble my way through it. So if you have the two type of documents, the first recommendation that I give you on the PDF side is make sure that you have a license of the PDF editor. Because if you are going to do PDFs and you're trying to do them on Word and then export them, the first thing where you're going to get stuck is if you have a field that is multi-line, you cannot do it in Word alone. You have to actually use Adobe Form Editor to actually being able to modify the forms. So if you use Adobe's tools to modify the forms, it gets really easy, and you have a ton of control, super detailed level of control on your fields on the forms. And you can name them whatever you want, and you can use regex statements to validate what they're putting in, and so on and so forth. So in that sense, the product can be a little bit more powerful than the DocuSign one, because Adobe is pretty good at managing forms online already. But you have to have the product, and it's that $800 license for one seat.
And it didn't come with your license for eSign, huh?
Oh yeah, that has nothing to do with the eSign license. Yeah, that's completely separate of it. This is the I don't know what the name of it is, but this is what the Adobe PDF product used to be. I think that it's now Adobe X or some sort of that.
Okay.
But you need that to actually the need is dependent on how complex your forms are. So if your forms are pretty complex, the example that I did had pick list, and they had some fields where we had to capture credit cards, so we had to mask the stuff as people were typing it in. All that cannot be done if you don't have the actual license.
Got it. That's a great heads up. Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I'm glad I asked. Thank you. That's the information I was looking for. I just haven't had the experience, and I haven't found anyone that's had the experience. So, thank you.
My Twitter handle is Carlos VL. So if you have a question, just tweet it, and I'll help you as much as I can. There are one or two things that click, especially if you're going to merge fields. Either way, if you're doing just document sign-in, it's very straightforward. You can have that in a day or two up and running. But if you're going to bring fields values from Salesforce into the documents, or if you're going to capture, if you want to bring values from the forms back into Salesforce, it has just one, it's not intuitive the way that it works. And it's one of those that once that you see it once, it's like, oh, why I didn't see it before? So, and I don't want to, if I walk you through it, you're going to lose it by the time that you get to the screen. So if you get stuck, just tweet me, and like I said, I'll help you as much as I can.
Will do. Oh, thank you so much. That's great.
Awesome. Thanks, Carlos.
Yeah.
All right. Who else has a question? Who wants to go next?
Hi, it's Wendy.
Hey, Wendy, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is in Process Builder, and I'm really, really new to it, so I want to make sure that what I'm seeing here is actually correct. So when I first get it started, where you define the criteria for the action group, you can set the conditions, and then you can also tailor it to where all of the conditions are met. You can use an and, an or, you can customize the logic. But then when you get to the immediate actions, you're not able to customize those. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing that correctly, so I can't further customize in the immediate actions portion. Does that make sense?
You mean you can't do further criteria logic in the actions portions?
Did we lose you, Wendy? I think we lost Wendy.
So, Brian, if I can piggyback on that question, Dale, since I'm still relatively new to Process Builder, what would your answer have been if she had said yes?
Then I would say you're right. So the criteria nodes, the little blue diamonds, is basically the equivalent to a workflow rule where you can say, when do you want to have certain actions actually get fired? So that's where all your logic is. There are some additional logic that you can do for some actions. Like if you're updating a record, you could put a filter to say, only update the record if it meets this type of criteria. So like if you're updating all opportunity products from the opportunity, you can say only update opportunity products if they have a certain product family. But all the logic for when the actions will actually fire is controlled by the criteria node, that blue diamond. Everything else is going to occur if that criteria is evaluated as true. But customizations is too vague of a word for this.
All right. Great. That answered the question. So looks like we're getting there. Tony, it looks like you have a question. You want to go ahead and just ask it?
I just wanted to make sure, hi everyone, I just wanted to make sure, is it true for Winter 16 that we will no longer need to concern ourselves with full test coverage when deploying unless we really want to have that option happen? I think I had heard that we can just use the test class that we are deploying the classes with for deployment, that it's just for the immediate 100% coverage of the class that we're dealing with for deploying. I mean, I'm doing fine now as far as overall coverage. Well, I could do a lot better, but but right now, I mean, as far as deploying something now, I am getting quick deployment, but I just wanted to make sure that's based on a test case by test case level per each deployment now. And it doesn't have to go through and iterate through you don't have to worry about, going through all of your class history code since time began. Does anyone follow? Am I making sense or?
Yeah, this is Andy.
Hi.
I know the feature you're going after, and actually I should ask first. My audio was a little quiet before. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So I know of the Winter 16 feature is the selective unit test deployment feature.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to back my way into the question. So this new feature does not change any of the expectations or platform limits that are in place where all of your code needs to be covered, 75%, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
I have not yet played with this specific thing in Winter 16. How I understand it is that through a metadata deployment, you can specify the unit tests you wish to fire for the code you're shooting. And as long as those tests are covering the code you're firing, that it will not run all tests in the org, but you are still expected to have full unit test coverage across all tests.
Okay.
Or across all code. That's how I understand it.
Okay. All right. That answers my question. Appreciate it.
Yep.
I have another one, but I'll wait till for later.
No, you're welcome to go ahead. Nobody else is in line, so go for it.
You have the floor. Go ahead and fire.
Okay. One other thing. Thanks. There is an upcoming feature. I missed our local suburban meeting group out here in Chicago when it was announced. I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we now might be moving to more detailed oriented pages that look like Salesforce 1, and that could cause problems maybe with upcoming Visualforce pages or older ones and how they were created before.
Yeah, you're talking about the Lightning experience.
Yes.
And that is a new UI that Salesforce is turning out for Windows 16, but it is optional.
Oh,
You do not have to enable it, and even if you do, you can actually enable it for only certain people by permission set of profiles.
Okay.
And it's toggleable, so you can go back and forth between the two apps. So as far as Visualforce goes, it kind of depends on your Visualforce page.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is Andy again. Specifically on the Visualforce stuff, the page itself, if you just drop a Visualforce page into the Lightning experience, it's not going to completely break. There are a few components that will render, and there are some components that will not render. From a more programmatic standpoint, they're basically going to iframe you into your Visualforce page becomes an iframe on the Lightning experience page. So it's going to stick out like a really nasty sore thumb. There's actually a Trailhead module on this specific thing up on Trailhead that talks to you about what's coming in and what's going out. I would urge you to head over there to developer.salesforce.com/Trailhead and check out that module because it gives you a lot of great information on the Lightning UI conversion.
Excellent. Okay. Thanks a lot. Those are my two questions. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Yep.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Who's up next? Who wants to go next?
Hi, this is Lisa again.
Go for it.
Anyone with ExactTarget or Marketing Cloud experience on the phone? Okay. I'm trying to determine how to track requested campaigns in our Salesforce instance where we have Service Cloud actively being used, and we have a client that campaigns are managed through ExactTarget. So I'm trying to figure out where that bridge is and having a challenge at doing that. So, is there a success community for ExactTarget? I don't think I found it.
There are user groups for Marketing Cloud.
Okay.
But not specifically for ExactTarget. And you're right about the bridge between ExactTarget and Salesforce. It's a bridge. It's like 90,000 years old. It's held up by sticks and hope, but it is there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's at least confirming the experience I've had so far.
You're not crazy, I promise.
Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah, there is and there's also, I was just looking on the community, there's a Success Salesforce Marketing Cloud group, and it looks like they also have some office hours that they do. I'll post a link to that in the chat here.
Perfect.
All right. Who else has a question? No more. Nobody has a question. Dennis, it looks like you have a question. So Dennis posted a question in the chat. Just curious if anybody had used hands-on training sessions from Dreamforce that are on sale to study for certification exams.
Not to study for certification exams. They're good for learning more about them, but because of the topics, you're going to probably find a lot of gaps depending on what certification exam you're trying to take. You may be better served by actually going to the Trailhead modules and doing exercises from there if your goal is certification.
I completely agree with Brian. There's also instructor-led training and online courses you can take through Felton Training that are, again, more suited to the overall test-taking experience than to the specific hands-on training topic. Did that answer your question at all, or do you want more resources?
Yeah, it sounds like it answers the question. Well, so thanks, guys. All right. Who wants to go next? Nobody has any questions? A lot of brain power on the call, not including myself.
This is Lisa. I'll go for one more.
Yeah, sure.
As far as deployment and having active process flows running, we're having to inactivate all of them before we can deploy a change set. Is that we've got a case open with Salesforce right now, trying to find a way that we would not have to do that? Anyone had any experience with that? Or
Go to the idea exchange. There's an idea on there about deactivating workflow rules for admins.
Okay.
Vote that up. Contact everybody you know to vote that up because it's a sorely needed feature.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
workflow
Yeah,
rules
did a
and maybe even
workaround.
validation rules as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did a workaround where, every workflow rule that we wrote and every validation rule that we did, we basically put escape clause at the beginning. It says if this is the admin, do nothing. And it's kind of a dirty way to do it, But that way, now it cuts both ways. You need to be kind of careful. So eventually what we end up doing is we're having a kind of like, we have an API account that we use for things that, that they don't need human intervention and human validation. And if we send it through there, we know that, if we don't follow the rules, we can break them. So long story short, we have all the workflow rules set up that if this account is the one that is activating, basically the workflow rule doesn't fire, or if it's a validation rule, the validation rule doesn't apply. So it's not too kosher, but it kind of works.
Yeah, we found that workaround, but we can't figure out the workaround for the process flows. So great. Okay. Well, again, you're confirming what we're running into. Mm-hmm. So I'll go look for that idea. Do you know what kind of any words in the title or the name of it? Just process flow. If I search on that, you think I'll find it?
It should be deactivate
deployment
workflow rules.
Okay, perfect.
And you can put in the comments, as that idea has been on there, there's been more functionality. So go ahead and put in the comments that needs to be recognized as well.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. That's all I have today. I'm going to drop off.
Awesome. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? We got about 14 minutes left.
Meaning of life? Oh, no, right?
I have one question.
Go for it.
But it's basically, I'm fortunate enough to have one of my colleagues who's a Salesforce admin add me, a Salesforce developer, to the MVP office hour list for the continuing schedules. I just wanted to find out, how do I get apprised of being connected every 2 weeks, where I get automatic mail sent out, because I'm not able to get on the mailing list for that. I may have missed something. Because there's automated mail that is sent out with the link.
Are you on the MVP Office Hours Success Group? Because I know Jared also posts in there a couple of days out.
Huh. I thought I was part of that. I'll have to go and check to see. Maybe I can add, because that's the only way I've been able to get that. Okay.
All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, we will go ahead and wrap it up for today. Give people 11 minutes back in the day. Thanks, MVPs, for joining. Thanks, everybody, for asking great questions. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to shoot me a message on the community. And until then, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next office hours.